YouTube, it's Allie from Allie's Books and Creativity. I am back. Yeah. Long story short on that, I don't need to explain. Just took a break. Now I'm back. That's what I'm gonna leave it as. Today I'm gonna do a video on, drumroll, books I read in the summer of 2023. Since it's now September, we just finished Labor Day weekend, and I wanted to share the books I've read in the summer, so let's get started. The first book I read in the summer of 2023 was They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. This was more of an audiobook through my digital library, and this book, how can I word it? I was in tears. Like, this book made me cry at the very end. Well, duh, we know what the title says. They both die at the end. So this one, I think I gave a rating of 4.5 out of 5 stars. Yeah, 4.5 out of 5 stars. So that's what the rating it got. And that was my first book of the summer. And I finished it on the first day of June, which was my start of summer read. The second book I've read and listened to on digital library was That Summer by Sarah Dessen. This one was okay. One character really annoyed the living heck out of me to the point where I just couldn't stand her. So I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. That's what it got. It would have gone a 4 if they didn't enter that character, but there's always a plot, but the plot was just so annoying. The next book I've read in the summer of 2023 was You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. I actually liked this one. This one was more like how you handle a school bully, and it had LGBT, and in it, in June is LGBTQ Awareness Month. So I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. And it was an audiobook as well. So I highly recommend that one if you haven't read it. Definitely pick it up. The next book I've read in the summer of 2023 is The First to Die at the End by Adam Silvera, which is a prequel to They Both Die at the End, which you're like, okay, I already know what's going to happen, so I'm not going to come into a shock of what's going to happen. And the first book was not a shock either until, don't really want to say spoilers if you haven't read it, but obviously everyone I've known has read it. I'm behind the bandwagon train, or you ever say, I'm behind the train. I'm behind the train of was needing to read that book. And finally I got to read the franchise, and I got to read it, listen to it, got my thoughts on it, and the rating for The First to Die at the End, I don't remember if I said it, I'm tired. It was 3 out of 5 stars. I prefer the original. I don't know, it was just harder to click with the prequel. The next book I read, it was physical, and it was pretty much a DNF because I didn't really like it as much, was 1,000 Heartbeats by Kira Cass. I don't know what's going on with Kira Cass here. This is just my opinion, to be honest. I loved her selection series when I was younger. But then when I read The Betrothed, and now this, I don't think I could ever buy another Kira Cass book again in my life. Sorry, Kira Cass fans. It's just, she is not impressing me like she did with the selection. I don't know what happened. Maybe my taste changed. Maybe. I don't know. But I gave it a 1 out of 5 stars. I wasn't impressed. The next book I read and listened to, my very first Audible book. And oh my gosh, I highly recommend this one. And it's by Becky Albertalli. She released it this year, and I love her humor. It's Imogen, obviously. It's about this girl named Imogen. She goes to college, or she's having the college life, and oh Oh my gosh, these are characters you will fall in love with. Do not miss out. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. Perfect read. Perfect read, perfect listen to. Oh my gosh. Recommend this book. Please read it. You will not be disappointed. Definitely not. I could not stop reading it. Every day I had to listen to it until I finished to the very end. It was that good. It was that good to the point where I kept craving more of the story, even though another one's not coming out. It's a standalone, but you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. I loved it so much. So yeah, moving on. The next book I physically read, I was on summer vacation while reading this book, and I finished it in a week or two, But without spoiling anything that happened, I can tell you it was a fave, and that is Cherish by Tracy Wolff. This series, Crave, will always have a special place in my heart. I cannot wait for the spin-off coming out in January, which is based on a book character you meet in book 3. And he's a warlock, but you have to read this series, which is Crave. So it's Crave, Crush, Covet, Court, Charm, and Cherish. After you read all of those, once the spin-off Sweet Vengeance comes out in January, you can read that next. If I get any extra funding that I save, I'm definitely pre-ordering that book 100%. That book will be on my pre-order list. This was an immediate 5 stars, 100%. So this, if you haven't read Cherish yet, but you've read up to Charm, so if you read up to Charm and you haven't read up to Cherish, definitely read Cherish. You'll be up for a treat. I know some people said they didn't like it, but I personally liked it, and I personally think you would love it if you're a fan of the Crave franchise. The next book I read was a reread. I gotta sit up. I'm working on my sit-up posture. If some of you wonder why I slouch so much, it's a bad habit. So the book I read next was a reread, and it is Realm Breaker by Victoria Aveyard. This one was so good. I remember reading it first time and loved it, and second time I loved it again. It was a 5 out of 5 stars for me. So if you haven't read this series, you got to pick it up because book 3 comes out next year. You're missing out. The next book I read after Realm Breaker, it was on my Kindle. Some of this stuff is Kindle, some of this stuff is audio, but listening. And this was Kindle. It was Tiffy or Tith by Holly Black. I love Holly Black's writing. I got into her reading when she released the Folk of the Air trilogy, and I never stopped reading her books every time I discover a Holly Black book. And oh my gosh, it is so good. But it was a bit slow, so I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars instead of 5 stars out of 5. So, but don't get me wrong, it's good. I liked it. It was just a bit slow for me. So that's why I gave it a 4 instead of 5 stars. I got a 4 star. But yeah, this is definitely a book to pick up. Give it a try. The next book I finished reading, and it was on Kindle, is, if I can get my phone to cooperate, is The Dream Thieves by Maggie Stefatar, you say her last name. I'm terrible with this last name, but this was a really good one. It was book 2 out of the Raven Boys, and I've read the Raven Boys back then. And this was really good. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. So yeah, if you haven't read the Raven Boys, I don't know what you're doing with your life, man. Pick up the Raven Boys, the Raven Cycle, please. You're missing out. The next book I read after the Dream Thieves was book 3 in the Raven Cycle is Blue Lily Lily Blue. This one was probably my favorite out of the whole franchise. I loved the cover, I loved the story, and it got a 5 stars as well. So yeah, This was this one's a keeper. This one's a keeper. But I rented it, so when I finished it, I had to return it. The next book I finished and listened to on Audible was City Love by Susan Colasanti. I think that's how you say her last name, but this book was not for me. The characters were hard to fall in love with. And I know it's a trilogy, but I didn't love it enough to continue with it. I gave it a 2.5 out of 5 stars. To be honest, the characters were trash to me. They were trash. So, I'm not continuing this series, really. It was just not for me if you guys liked it, but it was not for me. I tried, but I did finish it eventually. Just, no. No, 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 no. The next book I finished was on Kindle is Killjoy by Holly Jackson. I liked this one. It was a prequel from A Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy. And I would say, how can I word this? I would say I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars because it didn't have, I don't really want to spoil it, but it talks about before the whole mystery with Andy Bell in the first book. So when you read the trilogy, you'll understand. That's what I'm gonna leave it as. The book I finished physically reading next was Book 2 in Realm Breaker, Blade Breaker by Victoria Aveyard. And what rating did I give this again? I swear, I'm having deja vu today, guys. Oh, it's a 5 out of 5 stars as well. I liked this one as well. Now I'm all prepped for book 3 coming out early next year of 2024. So, I think it comes out sometime in February so far. Don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. My singing posture. Don't quote me on that, but it could change because the printing companies and stuff, you name it. The next digital book I finished reading, I think it was the last one for the summer, was The Raven King by Maggie Stevatar. Still, I can't say her last name. This one's the finale to the Raven cycle, and I definitely gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. And this was the best binge read of the summer. I loved it so much. I wish I could go back and read the books again. That's how much I loved it. Have you guys ever loved a book so much you wish you can go back in time and read it again? That's how I felt with the Raven cycle. I haven't felt that since I was reading a Sarah J. Maas book back in the day, so that means a lot to me, knowing I loved a book so much, knowing I just want to go back in time and read it. The final book was physical, and I read it physically, and I finished it the last day of August, which was my summer read. And the book is called, drumroll, Gallant by V.E. Schwab. I finally got to pick this up. I got this from a sale from Barnes & Noble right after Christmas, and I used up my $25 gift card on 3 books. And I would never pick this one up. I never understood why, because I've always meant to read it. So I just said, I think I just went to a library with a group of friends, and I saw it there, and I decided to give it a try, and I said, ooh, I have my own copy at home. I'm going to pick up my own copy once I get home and read it. I could not stop, guys. I could not stop. I need more V.E. Schwab in my life. I think the next book I want to read from her is called The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which is where I guess it's like the character's like in love with the devil or possessed by the devil or something like that. So that looks interesting. But it's so expensive and I can't afford it right now. So eventually I'll read it. Eventually. It's going to be on my plan to read. and plan to get eventually. All right. Those are the books I read for the summer of 2023. I hope you like this video. Expect more content in the future because I am coming back. And I'll see you all again soon. Bye.